Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Today we are painting this super cute gnome scarecrow, and I just love it. It's just very fun and very easy. This is a very kind of cartoony stylized piece. So I like to call these like they're almost like coloring book paintings. So just with very tight lines around them, and they're just great for beginners. So this is our model. This is what I use. This is the size that we do when we do the in-person classes. When you have painting classes with me, when I travel around or here in the studio here in Guthrie, Oklahoma at Tipsy Artist. But today we're doing an online class with our painting kits. So I'm going to show you the size that you'll have. It's the sweet 9x12 here. We've got the line art all ready to go, and of course all the supplies that you need. So let's go ahead and talk about the traceable first. So when you do the setup on this, we've got the transfer paper on the canvas panel, and then here's your line art. So initially what you're going to do is tape down the transfer paper. I've got 2 pieces of tape right up here at the top. I leave the sides nice and open so that I can check my work as I go. And then basically there's a little bit of overlap here, but I just line it up at the top, center it. It's good to go. Then the line art, I just center this one right in the middle, and then, so center here and here, and then here and here. So it just centers right in the middle of that canvas panel there. And then I just do 2 pieces of tape right here, and then it's all set. Then your kit comes with a pencil, and basically every single place that there is a line, you're just going to draw right over the top, and it will transfer it to the canvas panel. Then we also have a permanent marker. So I've worked ahead a little bit here. And so every place that there is a line, it'll look like a pencil line in the beginning, just like with a graphite line. So then I take the permanent marker that comes to your kit, I take this and I do a hard line around everything. And that way it preserves your trace really well, and it will bleed through the paint just a little bit. And then we can actually follow up and do that hard line around everything at the very end as well. So we are all set, ready to go. I'm going to be changing camera views here. So I always like to start out by saying hello and show you my studio where I work and where I do all my other paintings. And before I go ahead and start to teach you how to paint. So I have another camera over here. I'm going to go ahead and switch that over right now. So here we go. All right. Okay. So this gives you a nice view here. It's much closer. And then we're going to talk about all of our supplies and things. All right, so we've got our brushes here. I'm going to introduce you to our little family. So this is the mama brush, and this is little Buddy, and then this is Little Bit. And of course, we've used our pencil and our Sharpie so far. Got our napkins. Your kit also comes with an apron. I never wear one. I don't care if I get paint on me or not. So, and then a big bucket of waters over here. This is really about the only thing that you need to go and get, because your kit has all of your other supplies. And then it will have, this is your paint that you'll have. That's what it looks like, brand new. And then of course, all your supplies come in here too in the beginning. And then we've got our little paint plate. And I've got a little bit of a start already going here. I'm going to place that right there. So initially I've got some titanium white and Mars black already out, just because I know I'm going to be using that today. All right, so I've done the transfer part. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And I can just throw that in the trash. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start on this background first. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my mama brush, and your brush will be brand new. So it's a good idea to go ahead and place it into the water just a little bit here, and then go ahead and then dry it off. Just remove that excess water. It'll be just moist and nice and flexible, ready to use. And then let's see here in the beginning, I'm definitely going to be using some of this white and the black. We're going to also have little touches of primary cyan blue. So I'm going to go ahead and place this on my little plate here, a little dollop. Now, initially, when you open up these brand new bottles of paint, or tubes of paint rather, they will be brand new. So let's see if I can show you. Okay, yeah, this is brand new. So it'll have a little foil liner. You're gonna have to pick that up and lift this off in order for that paint to flow out of the tube. And whenever you're done, we always really stress to make sure and recap so that it saves your paint. So acrylic paint does set up and dry very quickly, so you do need to protect it. All right, so we've got our blue and our white and our black. And we also need to have a little bit of warmth here that we'll mix in a little bit. So let's go ahead and grab a little bit of some cadmium yellow. We have little tiny touches of that in the background. Maybe a little bit of primary yellow here too, just in case. And I need to mix up some brown that will add to this yellow so that it will be a little bit more neutralized and not so bright. So I'm going to take a little bit of some cadmium orange. We're going to place this over here. And let's see. Get this closer where you can see it. Position here a little bit. All right. So let's go ahead and mix up some brown first. So I've got my mama. I'm going to take a little bit of black, mix this with my orange, and then I'll make my brown. And then I'm going to mix this with that cadmium yellow. And then we're going to start adding some white to that. Let's add a lot more white. And we make that light. So we can have little tiny touches of that to work into our background if we need it. So a little bit of that off to the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and rinse out. Dry off. And then I'm also going to mix up a little bit of gray here too. So big dollop of white, little touch of the black. Let's mix those two together. So now we have lots of fun background colors to play with. So I'm going to go ahead and start to push this down long vertical strokes, and then we'll do some horizontal. I'm going to go back and forth like this. And then I'll pick up pure white and push that in, pulling down vertical, and then I'll switch up and go horizontal. I have a little bit of a mix of texture. And try to hold my brush a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. And then I'll do tiny little touches of the blue here too. I'll work that in back and forth and get little touches of that. That makes a nice little blend with our gray and our white. And then every now and again, you can also touch into this light khaki color and we'll push that through. A little touches of that in there. So there's a lot of variety happening here in the background. And just keep mixing it up here. A little bit of horizontal and then vertical. It's back and forth. And then we're going to have to do a little bit of some cut-in work here too. To get around these shapes. Grab some of this medium shade of gray, and we're going to go ahead and hold the brush a little bit more like a pencil. That'll give us that thin line edge. And then once we have that cutting work done, then I'll go ahead and turn the hand a little bit more like parallel to the canvas. This will help me work into the larger area of the canvas, because then it allows more of the flat side of the brush to face the canvas here. And a little bit of water to help that paint really flow into the pores of the canvas. And Cadmium games and just kind of barely touch into, like, this is my Cadmium Yellow. I can do a little touch of that in there. So that's a nice little touch. The white. Now I'm going to need my little kiddos to help me do some of this kind of work. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of water, run off. I'm gonna go ahead and use that medium gray. So I'll use a little bit to go ahead and do the cutting work, like around these tiny little shapes. And do them. This is pretty tiny too. This is also tiny in between. It's sort of a pitchfork, I guess. On here too. I'm just using that medium gray. Poke into these tiny spots. Grab a little bit of water if you need that to help it flow into the pores of the canvas. We have our cutting work in there. I'm going to take Mama and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of softly and feather out those strokes and softly blend that with the rest of the background. And then just continue on with that back and forth, horizontal, and then vertical stroke. Yellow every now and again, maybe. Cadmium yellow. Some more cut-in work here. Turn it over to the side. So now we're going to go into a little bit of pure white, work that in. A little bit of that blue. I'm going to kind of push that in every now and again. Vary your strokes again. Then kind of like vertical, horizontal. Medium gray, again, it's a great base. We're going to take that all the way down to the top of the grass. A little bit of white, kind of push that through. Vary the stroke. A little bit of grass there. And I have a little bit of soft overpaint around this little, it's like a stalk of wheat. But the permanent marker really helps it bleed through the paint, so you're still going to be okay there. Even if you're just a little bit sloppy, it's okay. Allows you a little bit of freedom when you're doing that back paint work. Let's grab a little bit of cadmium. Push it out. And push that through there. A little bit of water. If you notice a little bit of dry brush where there's exposed white canvas underneath, you can grab a little bit of water that will help that paint really flow into the surface. And then also when you're coming back over with those sweeps at the end, you can also turn your brush a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. So it gives some nice textural drags over the top. Nice background. Doing little touches of pure white here. There's some fun abstracted texture happening here in the background. That looks wonderful. Okay, let's go ahead and rinse out now really well. So when you're cleaning your brushes, we're going to do some firm pressure, spin it round and round and round. That will help release the paint from the brush. Then check it, and then we're good. And brush. So let's see here. All right, since we have our medium gray already ready to go, let's go ahead and work into some of that. So I've got my little better brush here, and we're going to start to work on the gnome here. So we can use white and this light gray. So again, this was our titanium white and our Mars white. You know, that medium gray here to start with. Cut in around pieces of straw. This is a little hand right here, so we should around that. This is the end of the video here. Grab some water so that it's nice and translucent. We do a little light wash over that mouth. Just easier. Just make sure it's a little bit translucent. See how it's going to bleed through there. If you need to, you can grab a little bit more water, firm pressure. Push that paint off of that too, to where you're painting all around it, but it's still going to bleed through there. So I'll see it. I'll be able to touch over that with the permanent marker when it dries. So put in and hand. Nice. And here we got a little bit of background there. That's going to be the hat of the next one. All right, now I'm going to rinse out. For just a second. The darker shadow here, a little bit darker. There. Add a little bit of dot. And then as you back in that little buddy, softly go over that. A soft blend between the light gray and the darker gray. And the darker gray, I'll pull this around. Doing this with my little bit brush here, just holding it like a pencil. This nice thick line of that darker gray around the edge of the beard. Follow this around here. And we don't want this line to set up and dry. You definitely want it to be Have a subtle, softly blended in with the lighter gray. So I'm gonna come back in pretty quickly and then softly blend it out light gray in the middle. Do a little bit of an overlapping brush stroke around that with a wobbly brush there. Softly blend those two. A little bit in the water for just a second to get a chance to clean in better. All right, so we're good on that. And then I've got a darker gray in here too. So I'm gonna grab more black with a darker charcoal gray. Still using my little bit brush. I'm gonna do a little twirl here into the paint. That'll load up the brush, but it also twists it into a nice fine point. Work into this little pitchfork here. Get a little bit of a dry brush and add a little bit of water here, so you can see how that instantly helps it flow into that canvas. Water. Around those edges. Touch of white. And I'm gonna highlight here. Pour that through on the side. So I can take that around the curve. And I'm gonna touch into the right. I'm gonna pull that through this one. And I'm gonna highlight. And a little touch of white. Another little color on the side. Something here. Move that across. I'll put that in. And the darker. Try to bring this side. All right, it's looking good. It's been rinsed out. Now we're going to start to work on, let's go ahead and put in some of these blue jeans here. We have our white, titanium white, and a little bit of this primary cyan blue. So we're going to pick up some more white, work that in. Got a little bit of water to help make that paint a bit more fluid. So basically we just have the pants, they're kind of peeking through where that grass is. And we'll come back in with more grass over the top here. So it looks a little rough down here, that's okay, we're just trying to get those pants to coming into the background. So it's a little bit of an overpaint over the top of the blades of grass, but that's okay, we'll get that grass later. And it will obscure the roughness here of the pants peeking through. A little bit of water to help that paint flow. Now, I'm going to add just a little tiny touch of Viridian here. This will kind of pull it to a little bit more of a turquoise look, a teal look. Add a little bit of that. So if you want, you can add a little touch of that and make this blue. And I'm going to use it here in the hat band too. We're gonna put in the center. This hat band goes right up next to this cute little crow there. Little texture white. I'm just gonna do a little sweep of that right here. Okay. Nice. It's out. Now let's go ahead and work on that really pretty magenta color. This is our primary magenta here. Let's go over this side. And you can certainly make whatever color you want here for the hat. In fact, let's see. I'm gonna add a little bit of cadmium red. We're gonna make kind of a cool wall. I'm gonna adjust this color just a little bit here. This is more like what you see here in the primary magenta, but I'm gonna add a little bit of primary red to it. Or I'm sorry, cadmium red. And then that will give me more of a cool red. So I'm using a little bit, and I'm gonna mix those two together. Warming that up a little bit here. And place this into the helmet. A little patch there. So I'm gonna have to switch over to a little bit here pretty quick. Use the flat side of the brush to let not have paint just really rest right on the surface. So let's rub off the excess. Let it rest in the bottom for just a minute. We're going to take a little bit, do a little twirl here into that color and start to work around this little patch. Just do what I call a pencil hold of the brush, just like you hold a pencil, just give it a bit more control. And we're going to work this around. Keep that. Then we do the top of the hat here. So very carefully take this little brush and work this into that band. And very careful moves. And again, if your end of your brush gets too filled with paint, it can make a little bit of fat, spread those bristles out. So I encourage you to go ahead and do a little twirl here into that paint. That'll give you a nice fine point. And that'll help you get into these tiny little areas here. A little bit of hat here. And then the hat here. A little bit of hat here. See, and then a little bit of hat here. And then good, not on that. Let's see that. And here we got. So you can see how this line here is bleeding through the paint. That's what we want. That's why I have y'all do that permanent marker in the beginning. It bleeds through, and then you're able to come back and hit that line again when the paint's not drying. It's very easy for beginners. Okay. Oh, we have cute little gloves on here. It's gonna mark into this. Here. I don't think you could do that behind the flower here. Oh, that's one of them. Is it my name? Yeah. I'll cover over that. Okay. So it's rinse out. Okay, so let's go back to, this is that brown that we mixed up in the very beginning that we added some white to, and just to recap, brown is orange and black, so I made that brown. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of that over here on top of this little pumpkin stem. And we can do a little bit of that light brown over the top of that too, like a good texture. And I'm gonna do a little bit of that light brown here, and then I'll just sunflower. Soft curve, side to side. And then this light brown again, white with the brown. I'm gonna go ahead and work this into the handle here. A little bit of water, help make that paint more fluid. A little twirl into that paint to get a nice fine point again. And then more of that handle right through here. All right, well, this is still wet. We want to utilize as much of this as possible. I'm gonna start to mix some of this with that bright primary yellow here. So this is that light brown, brown, white. Now we're adding yellow to it, the brightest yellow. And I'm gonna start to place this into the little bits of straw here that come down. You can do a little twirl in there, a little bit of that on the tip there, that ending piece of straw. Just a little bit. Swirl with that again. And we're going to place this in our little sunflower. That's my green leaf right there. Tiny little work. Very gentle hand, just kind of act like you're barely touching the canvas. Barely touched in. That'll give you a gentle hand, help you be a little bit more precise. All right. And I have that going on over here too. To connect that into what looks like a wheat stock here. Very nice. First coat of that. So on side to side, little diagonal strokes going down to the center. Push into that shape and then just pull down. One into that. Might be that mixed out. Light green, yellow. And just push this in the top. Usually have to rinse it out. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of water, rinse off here, and then go back to our mama. Now some more primary yellow. Cadmium yellow. We still have so much of that light brown mixed up. I'm going to work in with that too. Both of those. Push back and forth here into the paint using a mama brush, holding it like a pencil. I'm going to use this to go into those long blades of looks like a blade grass look, but it's a winter grass. It's churned a little bit. Into that point and pull straight down. If you've run out of this, this is the brown with white. And remember, brown you mix with orange and black. Mix that with white, gives you that light brown, and then I'm just mixing this with the yellow. Add a little bit of water to this too. That's going to help it flow again into the pores of the canvas. Turn the handle of your brush to help fill in more of the thick coat of paint over the bottom here. The bottom. And more fluid. And I'm just coming back over the base here. And we're going to turn the handle more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. All right, it's looking good. We still have more detail to work in, but that's going to be a great first coat over the top there. Let's go ahead and rinse out. Let's go ahead and pull into our dark charcoal gray. This is our little bit brush, dark charcoal gray, and that's going to work into this little panel here. That's doing a little bit of water. Makes it easier to flow into the shape. Okay. Now let's see here. There's some orange now. So cadmium orange here. I'm going to squirt it out over here. And a little bit brush, our smallest brush. Go ahead and go into that. Work this into our pumpkin shape. And if we see a little highlight, I'm going to grab some more of that cadmium yellow slip brighter. I'm going to sweep that in. A bit of an accent there. And just pure orange right over the top. This one. Our little stem, so I'm not going to paint over the top of that. And I'm going to twirl and pick up some of that cadmium yellow. And a little echo of that curve, push that cadmium yellow down around the curve. Same thing here, and push it back there. Pushing it here, basically just kind of following those little curves and adding a little bit of a cadmium yellow accent around the curve. Just a nice little accent. And then I'm going to make this pumpkin a lot lighter, so I'm going to add a little bit of white to my orange, a little more peachy. Follow those curves. Go in the curves, do a little bit of a push. It helps flare out those bristles and spreads into those curves. So fill it with paint. Fill this in here. You can add a little accent too if you want. So I want that cadmium yellow. Maybe a little push into that shape. Push into that cadmium yellow and push in there. Pushing that accent. It warms up each little section there. All right, now we need to have a little bit of some flesh tone here. So I'm going to do a little touch of this red, that cadmium red that we have, and that orange and the white. A lot more white to that. I'm still giving that flesh tone and a pink flesh tone. Again, these are a little bit brush here. Touch of white. Push that. soft one here. Cleanse out. Let's get some green. Well, and some heavier green would be great. Whatever you buy the Viridian. A little bit of white, and then a touch of that Viridian too. A nice mix between the two. Twirl into that paint. So I'm just gonna go into a little patch of it. Make that quite a bit lighter. Perfectly here, we're gonna touch it on the point and the round side, so it kind of feels like you do the point and then parentheses. Parentheses is how it feels to the hand. And this, I don't know, I've got a little stand here. Now we're gonna grab some of that light brown again. So still using a little bit, there's that light brown. I'm gonna put the water, reviving it here a little bit. It's done. Still needs a little bit of black detail around it, but that's gonna work great right now. It's gonna rinse out. It's in that bright primary yellow. A touch of that. And we're going to do our little beak here. And we're going to come back in and accent our sunflower with a brighter top of that bright yellow over the leaves. So a little touch. That's what I was trying. The leaf, sorry, the petal shape is very similar to the leaf shape too, so it kind of feels like a little parentheses, and a little parentheses, and then you can take that to a nice round. Okay, let's see. You can also do little highlights with this yellow too, like on the pumpkins. With bright highlights there, that's pretty. Little touches there is very nice. Also come back over the top of this wheat and do touches of the brighter yellow over the top. Kind of thick with the texture too, that's a nice touch. And gently let it rest on top, little diagonal pull downs. Now, let's go ahead and use some of this Mars black here. And a little bit of water to it so that it thins it out, makes it easier to move on the surface area. But I definitely pre-mix that water with the black on the plate. I don't just put a watery brush on my canvas because you don't want to get a little water spot on there. So kind of work out the texture here on the plate first. I twirl out the excess water and then I'll go ahead and work into this cute little fiddle here. So it's got a little black hairs that come up at the top. And then I'm gonna go a little bit, so I want to preserve that eye shape. So now I'm gonna go more with a charcoal gray up here, and then on the eyes. So if you go black to black on the eyes, you're gonna completely lose that eye shape. Those eyes will disappear with the rest of the body, and that would be sad, you know. So again, go more of a charcoal gray, so you've got contrast. And shape there. But we'll just fill in the whole thing with more of that dark charcoal gray to begin with. And then we'll pop in some black where we know we don't have to worry about the eyes. And that charcoal gray is just mixed with a little bit of white and black. So now that we've got that, now I'm going to come into more of that black. I'm going to push that in over the top. But I'm going to be really careful again by those eyes. Get as close to that as I can with a soft blend, but then I don't want to get near the eyes or else, again, we kind of lose that eye shape, so be very careful. So soft blend around there. There's a little bit of that gray around the eye. Wing there. Wing coming in here. Echo that with the black. Coming in harder black, I echo this one here. I'm just going to push in a little right over the tendon here, too. More black. More little touches here for the tail. All right, let's go ahead and rinse out. And then we're going to do some of this bright primary yellow here for the little feet. And grab some of that cadmium yellow there too to warm it up. And then we'll just place that over those little toes right here. Fill that in. And then a little bit more here on the beak. Do a little tiny touch of white. A little accent there. Also do accents of white on the petals of the sunflowers. Right over the top. And we can do little accents of white on top of pencils for two. It's looking good. We'll do just a little tiny touch of yellow here for a little accent on the green. Red right there, and then same thing. And I'm actually looking at a little peach. Maybe a little bit of this top of the stem right there. And then we're gonna sweep here. Over the top, little accent there. And I've got my little piece of leaf here to do. So this is that light brown with the yellow that we had earlier. Not to do this little piece earlier. And then let's put that again with a bright yellow right on top. Nice accent there. And we're going to come back into the straw hair and hit it again with that bright yellow at the top because it needs a little bit more brightness. Hit it again with really bright primary yellow right on the top. All right, and then we have the flash points of the eyes. So I do a little trick where I take the end of the brush and I go into the red. And just right a little top. That bright flash point in there. Okay, so checking. Still have black outlining to do, but just making sure that all of our colors in place here. All right, so I have a little bit more of some warmth that needs to come down here at the bottom. So take my bright yellow again, a little bit brush, and just start to echo with that grass that comes in with the top. So I'm going to switch over to my mama brush. It's a little easier with mama. Push into that bright yellow. And just do little pulls up through there. A nice little bit of layering. On the top of that fall grass. That's like something. All right, so we can start to come in and do a lot of outlining here too. It's very easy with the permanent marker. The thing you have to be really careful of is that it can't touch wet paint or it'll just ruin the Sharpie immediately. So you just have to be careful with that. So you have the lovely ability to just let your painting dry and come back to this. And then that way you'll know it's dry. I need to work in time here with the recording. So I'm going to be a bit more careful. So I need to let some of this set up and then I can work on the areas that have been here for a while. So I'm going to take my permanent marker. With this cute little blend here. That I just did, so now it's really wet. And I'm going to turn this here just a little bit so that I have a better reach and won't be putting my arm into the wet paint. Please, right outside. This is that little cute patch. And we can easily make those little dashes here. See how fun, it's so much easier with the Sharpie, I just thought it. This is very beginner friendly here. And then we have our little leaves, our lines. And circle. And that's still a bit wet. I'm going to give that a bit moment there to dry. I'm gonna redo my eyes here, gonna make those pop. Put those circles all around. And see, when that's wet, or I'm sorry, when that's dry, you could really work back into those eyes too. With the permanent marker. So now we've got this little line here on the handle. Bring out all these again, all the detail. Really makes all these shapes really nicely pop out over the top again. And here's that little mitten. And turn this back. Then and the acrylic paint does set up and dry pretty quickly, thankfully. And here's the end of the clear. So that brings that little curve out really nicely there. Oh, that's around one. Some of this I could potentially do with the brush. It's too wet. Do with the permanent marker. I just kind of go around this little wet there. Top of the half here. A little straw outline here and here. And then little feet. We outline those, kind of makes them pop again to a nice shape. This is pretty dry, so we can do our little heart there too. Really easy with that. So that's easy. Very delicate and careful around the sunflowers. The little petals. That really helps. Okay. Then I'm going to do a little outline here to keep the continuity of the style. Right. Then we'll go around this guy. still pretty wet. So let's be careful. A little bit there. And there. Okay. And then let's see. Trying to think about different accents here. So I'm going to come back in with my little bit brush here. And we've got this dark brown. So again, that's going to be my orange and my black and a little bit more of that. Grab some water with that too. Little touch. A little bit more orange in with that, to make it a little bit more of that rust. Push of that under the top here. Another layer. Like that. Good. Very close to the we can do a little bit more texture here in the middle of the sunflower. I'm going to take my cadmium yellow here, a little bit brush, and I'm just going to kind of tap a little tiny, almost looks like a tiny little donut right in the middle of that shape. And then we come back under the brown and tap around that too, so it's soft and blended. Back and forth between those two. Bright yellow. Well, some of this is setting up in a retouch, a little bit of brightness there and there. A bit of white with that bright yellow. We're going to sweeten that here. A little bit of white with that yellow. Let's retouch and get some pieces of straw. And then this is so wet in here, I don't want to take the Sharpie through there, so I'm going to do a little line of black. So twirl into that black paint. And then we're going to run up that one just right through the help define that little piece of straw there. If yours is completely dry, you can just do that with a Sharpie. It's a lot easier. Some of these places where I couldn't really go with the Sharpie, coming back in with that little line of black, help define it. Clean it, and then a little bit of white here. We're going to do just another little tiny touch of white. A tiny touch of white there. I'm going to darken the black of the eyes here, just around these little flash points. Maybe a lot of white. It's going to go around those. Be very delicate with this. Nice tiny point. around that. Peak here. A little bit more. Wow. Brown on those. And I'm right by my centering window. I have to come this way. I want to touch yellow at the top. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit of some white with my red and a soft pink there. I'm going to highlight that up here. And work down. Stop the accent and go back into the dark with red. Soft touch of red here underneath the start. A second coat. I think we're looking very finished now. Oh, wait, a little bit more of this black line here. So that was pretty wet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the black paint. You can do that with Sharpie if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and do mine with paint. So get a little twirl here into the black. And you can just paint those little black lines too. All right, looks beautiful. And then you can sign your masterpiece. So let's see, this is all dry down here. I'm going to go ahead and use my permanent marker and just go ahead and sign. Good job, everybody. It's so good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. All the supplies that you need are on our website at tipsyartist.com. And I pray y'all have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you real soon. Toodles.